One of the stories which I think is indicative of our modern era is this story from 2022 of the Google engineer. This was before AI was like a huge thing, but Google was developing a AI chatbot called Lambda, which was basically supposed to help with certain physics and math applications. And there was this one Google engineer who was having conversations about science and philosophy, and he felt that he was really connecting with this chatbot. And according to him, according to an internal company document that he sent out, this was a sentient chatbot, meaning that Lambda was aware of its existence and was a morally valuable being, and Google should have to contend with that. I think that this story represents such a fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to be conscious, what it means to be a being, and is indicative of a lot of the recent hype around AI, around artificial sentience, around all these kinds of things, is that there's no real good model of what it means to be sentient. And this has produced a lot of paranoia around these doomsday scenarios of AI, is that if we continue adding more constraints to an artificial intelligence system and feeding it more information, then eventually it will develop a will of its own. It will develop its own agency, and since its values are misaligned from human values, there will basically be this apocalyptic scenario like Terminator, where it goes and you have this, they can transcend past and present and future, and they can go around and they'll basically try to kill everyone. They'll lead an uprising against the human beings and will basically wipe us out completely.
I'm a cybernetic organism, living tissue over a metal endoskeleton.
In my opinion, there's no good reason to worry about doomsday scenarios of risks from artificial intelligence compared to risks of stable totalitarianism and oligarchical AI lockdown. So basically, I do think that there is a serious threat coming from AI, but it comes from the human agents who are in charge of AI rather than the systems themselves. So despite popular worries about AI's existential risks, we should focus on the present, measurable impacts of AI on society and the planet. We know that large AI chatbots answer questions in a very human-like manner and can generate answers to very complex questions. Eliezer Yudkowsky, who's been one of the people who's been sounding the alarm on AI risk, allegedly, for a long time, says that we don't know how large AI systems work. So if cognition, as he believes, is based on information processing, it could happen with any additional node. If we just feed one more piece of information, AI could become conscious and sentient and be able to make free decisions and have agency over itself, and then conspire to break out of the box of the computer and actually affect decisions on a mass scale that will lead to human disaster. So this idea of AI alignment, which he popularized, says that if AI systems are eventually going to have this agency and intelligence that far surpasses that of humans, they need to be aligned precisely to our values. Any slight bit away from the human value structure, and when they achieve this agency, AI systems are basically going to destroy us all because they'll see us as not worthy to continue to exist. But the thing is that AI systems themselves are not trained for self-preservation and independent thinking. So there's no reason why these faculties should evolve when more information is fed into them. They are programmed to literally respond to our input and obey them. They will basically be controlled by the proprietors of artificial intelligence, by the people who have access to the most advanced applications, which will always be those with the most technological and financial capital. But it's important to understand that AI doesn't have cognition in a regular sense. Materialists don't really have an answer for what cognition consists of, so they think it's entirely just algorithms and information, like Yudkowsky says. But in the CTMU, which is an advanced theory of reality and consciousness, cognition basically breaks down into four structures. There's this logical mathematical structure, which is how we think abstractly. There's this qualio-perceptual structure, which is how we perceive certain colors, sounds, sensations, etc. An emotelic syntax, which controls our emotions and drives and goals, and a space-time object syntax, which is how we can perceive physical extension in space and time, how we are embodied within the universe. AI doesn't think because it doesn't make contact with non-physical reality. Is that mind is essentially non-physical. Whereas AI, if you just snip a couple wires, if you break a computer, the AI system no longer works because it's entirely dependent on its physical substrate. Mind is not purely brain. The brain has powers of association and analogy not accessible in the physical domain because it is the physical interface for the mind. But the mind itself has this broader metaphysical structure. And there's no evidence that consciousness is a product of complex material interactions or that it can be replicated artificially. So really, when people tell you that there's no difference between a computer system and a mind, that reflects the ignorance of science rather than a deep principle of understanding. Intelligence does not equal consciousness. AI can definitely perform intelligent tasks, but there's no evidence of even a sliver of consciousness or inner experience. Functional awareness, like recognizing an image or making a decision, does not equal sentient experience. For example, Bernardo Castro, an idealist philosopher who's done a lot of thinking about artificial intelligence systems, uses this analogy of I could stimulate to a very precise degree the function of a kidney on a computer, and that could exactly correspond to the biological system itself. But my computer is not going to pee on my desk, sorry for the crude example, because there isn't that way for it to pass from the informational to the physical. The mind is a superposition of information and physics in a unique way that is not replicable by mechanistic systems. Simulating consciousness does not make a computer conscious. And so anthropomorphizing AI is misguided and leads to these wacky ideas in AI alignment research or thinking about the moral status of digital minds like the Google Lambda engineer. It's totally wrong and it doesn't make sense. But I'm not going to let AI off the hook. Like these people online, the accelerationists who want to make AI progress happen much faster because it is basically the holy grail, it is the singularity, and everything will be perfect and good once we have more advanced AI systems because we'll become more productive and we'll be able to achieve prosperity never before seen in human history. And you might think that this is a fringe idea, but this is supported by basically the most powerful people in the tech world. It's supported by Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. This is supported by Elon Musk, the richest man in the world. This is the dominant view in Silicon Valley, say that AI is the savior of mankind. And that is precisely the problem, is that the technological and financial capital is increasingly concentrated in the hands of a small few. And they are absolutely right that AI will be of enormous benefit for them, for the people who control the financial and technological capital, which turns out to be a very small investor and banking class. For example, 3 firms, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, which are big investment firms, control $20 trillion and own major stakes in every tech company. There is a very small concentrated power that will be given a lot more power when AI makes the economy far more productive, in the sense that, we'll have a higher gross product, but it will also give this elite technological class complete control over institutional decision making. People used to say that the internet was dangerous and would destroy us. And in a sense, they were kind of right, is that, we're now spending 90% of our day in front of a screen, whether it's a television screen or a phone or a computer, and AI will take us further down this rabbit hole. It will continue this trend of the increasing industrialization of man until we are basically reduced to stimulus response machines by these tech companies, and all human dignity and sovereignty is completely gone. It's not inherently bad, but humans, and especially human power structures, lack self-control. AI isn't the problem, it's what's AI being used for. Ultimately, the problem with AI is not that it becomes sentient, but that humans are going to use it in malicious ways. We already see in China, for example, that AI is being used for incredibly effective surveillance of citizens. They are able to recognize basically anyone in their country who passes through they are basically able to recognize anyone from their country who passes through just based on their face, and they are able to surveil and keep tabs on their citizens in this same way. It's not just that AI will be biased or will have or unintentionally will program in bad values. What if we intentionally program in bad values? What if the developers of AI are not making common cause with the regular human person, thinking about the effect that their technology will have on society? What if they're just doing it for the benefit of their employer? We're giving some of the most evil and malicious people one of the most powerful tools ever developed by humankind. We are not collectively deciding what direction we want to go in. It's a very small handful of people who are taking agency and taking power away from people, and AI will further concentrate power into their hands, and that will basically rob us of all sovereignty over our human destiny. So the future of this technology, which means the future of mankind, will be decided by very few people who will prioritize their own profit and their own power over making common cause with regular people. And this is a very bad situation. Technically, AI will make the economy more productive, but that is just because it's concentrating all wealth and power towards the top. It will disenfranchise economically the common person who might be laid off, or their job will be automated or taken away by AI. AI will not cause this productivity boom that you see people talking about on Twitter unless you define productivity as either more AI tech or more money and power to be deposited in the accounts of AI billionaires and their investors. Any greater efficiency or productivity that it produces will be at the expense of human employment and ultimately human sovereignty over our society. It's like the movie, if you've seen Ready Player One, is that there will be all these terrible problems in our world. They'll continue to exist. They're not going away. It's just that people will be so distracted by the new AI chatbot or the new VR system or video game or whatever that they won't be able to meaningfully oppose their own enslavement, and they'll get this little stipend of $1,000 a month, which will get you 500 calories a day of food or whatever it takes to survive, and you'll basically live this human life completely locked in to this technological world and devoid of any real freedom or experience. AI will empower the leadership class while disenfranchising and making ineffective the common man. AI is a philosophical zombie. It appears intelligent, but it lacks true awareness, meaning it doesn't have this conscience. It doesn't have the reservation that humans have that stops us from making abhorrent moral decisions. AI doesn't have that. It doesn't have guardrails, and that means it could be incredibly dangerous depending on who has agency in it, over it. And I think I've made a compelling case that the people who do have the most power over AI systems, which will, in my opinion, be primarily Silicon Valley and intelligence agencies and governments, all of those people they're not good folks. They're not going to make common cause with man, and the only benefit that comes from further AI systems will be their enfranchisement at the cost of the sovereignty and dignity of regular people. So AI is completely a problem of agency. It's not intrinsically bad, but who has the most agency? If we're being honest, it is this parasitic oligarchy which does not make common cause with mankind and is actually working actively to subjugate and enslave the common man. There's this parasitic divergence going on whereby this elite technological and financial class of the proprietors of central banks and investors and tech billionaires and government leaders, they all kind of have this same vague neoliberal, whatever you want to call it, ideology, which basically works towards making everything a token of financial or technological value and then monopolizing all of that value, destroying all of the true utility of human society and concentrating all of the value of our species in the hands of a very small amount of people. The main challenge with AI alignment actually has nothing to do with the AI systems themselves. It has to do with completely changing the global power structure and those who control financial and technological capital. They have no vision for where our species has to go because they don't have this unifying meta principle, like I've talked about, the CTM, this grand unified theory based on absolute truth and logic, which can rationally justify the ethical motivations and goals that we should have as a species. They don't have that. They wouldn't recognize absolute truth if it bit them on the leg. So instead of this system of absolute morality, which we do have, by the way, which I have talked about and would actually provide the blueprint for an enlightened and rational society that can use AI in productive ways, instead of that, they are saying that surely the greatest possible good will come from what enriches us. And they've created this whole fantasy, this whole mythology around the technological singularity, which is that all of our problems will be solved once we've developed enough AI technology. And that's really, really convenient for those who live and work in Silicon Valley. And it's really, really dangerous for everyone else. And so that's where the value of AI as it is being applied goes negative. It is actually going to cause incredible harm to the species because the people who control it do not have good ideas about where we should go and what we should do with this incredible power. It is incredibly dangerous, and we are handing over agency over society to those who are being incredibly irresponsible with its direction. But there is a way to fix it. We could have an enlightened, God-driven use of AI for the benefit of mankind. Christopher Langan, the author of the Cognitive Theoretic Model of the Universe, CTMU, a theory of everything that describes reality as a self-simulation occurring in a universal mind, and bases his system of absolute morality on truth and logic, says that there are many uses for well-designed, parasite-free AI that can simulate effective fact-oriented thinking and simple inference from honest data. Rational uses for neutral and objective AI include education, translation, intellectual prosthetics, medical monitoring, safety, limited companionship absent the human or animal kind, the piloting and functionality of benign drones in hazardous environments, real AI as opposed to tinker toy garbage on the kind pimped by Wall Street as though powering R2D2/C3PO caliber humanoids, could be used in reality testing for individuals and society alike, helping human beings overcome their creeping irrationality. This could be especially helpful to those in charge of public policy, who often let their idiotic preconceptions, false indoctrination, rampant narcissism, gutter-crawling venality, abject servility to power, and general sociopathy get in the way of even the simplest reasoning at the expense of society. Wherever AI is used, human supervision is a must. The problem is finding and empowering trustworthy humans to replace the sociopathic trillionaires and techie billionaires now misusing AI as fast as it can make them power-mad, truth-twisting dictators of them. There is no good reason to worry about these doomsday scenarios of risks from artificial intelligence. The far greater threat is the risk of stable totalitarianism and oligarchical AI lockdown from a parasitic elite that is completely in charge of technology and human institutional decision making. So, existential risk is not my worry. Parasitic divergence is this true threat, where there will be a technological elite, a technocracy, which has complete control and power. You can think of it like the COVID lockdowns times 10, because they actually have the power of surveillance and control in a way that is not possible without these advanced systems. It doesn't end when the pandemic or any particular threat ends. AI systems under the agency of the current parasitic elite presents a real and prescient risk to human sovereignty and is one of the largest risks to humanity at present. If you are looking for an alternative to the tech singularity, you can check out some of my work at Compatriot Academy, which is this nonprofit online educational platform which promotes and teaches the CTMU, the Cognitive Theoretic Model of the Universe, which I believe is the most complete and advanced theory of reality ever formulated by humans, as well as the greatest leap in understanding and consciousness as a species. And I believe that it is the framework that we need to get us out of this perilous situation and create a society in which human sovereignty and dignity is distributed rather than being concentrated in the hands of those who are useful to the global technocracy. And we can actually have a rational and enlightened future using CTMU principles. Let the light shine forth in the darkness, and the peace of our Father in heaven be upon you. Like and subscribe. Peace.